Good morning. Thanks very much for joining us. If you think the state treasurer is just somebody who signs off on the paychecks and doesn't do much else, well, you're wrong. From the lottery to the new legal marijuana law and beyond, the state treasurer's office is at the center of some of the biggest issues going in our state. And here to talk about some of them is the state treasurer herself, Deb Goldberg. Happy New Year, Treasurer.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Good to have you here.
Thanks
for coming in. So one of the appointees to the Cannabis Control Commission, Shailene Title, is that the correct pronunciation of her name? She's pretty much the lone marijuana advocate on that board. She's been active with NORML and other groups over the years. And she actually co-wrote the referendum question, which was perceived as pretty pro-industry. Now, you didn't campaign against the ballot question.
No, I did not.
You kept yourself out of it because you'd be the one regulating it. But you've been open about your objections, for instance, to the original tax rate that Shailene and her colleagues put in there, and also the part allowing extensive home growing. So why'd you appoint her?
I think it was very important to have a lot of balance on the commission. We met with Shailene during the process when we believed that the Cannabis Control Commission would reside in the treasurer's office, and we were very impressed with her knowledge and her intellect and felt very enthusiastic about her participation. You know, our office looked at it that we were tasked within the ballot question to manage the regulation of cannabis. And so consequently, we wanted all voices at the table, as we always do when we work on a project or a startup. And I think that she adds a great deal to the commission.
Well, the bottom line, literally speaking, on all of this is the anticipation of all the revenue that we might get.
Correct.
We certainly need an infusion of new revenue in the state.
And as treasurer, I watch that very closely.
Well, you know, we've got, and this is a little bit of a separate issue, but in a way it isn't. And I notice you were commenting on this recently. The casino development here in Massachusetts has been glacial. We've got the slot parlor down in Plain Ridge. We've got the work going on in Springfield and in Everett. But we're still a couple of years away from those opening. Well, Connecticut is forging ahead with a casino in East Windsor, right over the state line, about 15 minutes from downtown Springfield. Now they're talking about another Connecticut casino in Bridgeport. Are you concerned that we're completely missing the boat on casinos and maybe even on marijuana?
Well, I don't think that we will miss the boat on marijuana because regardless of whether it takes 6 months or a year to get up and running, it's a healthy tax rate and we don't have the competition yet across the borders. And I do believe that the movement towards recreational marijuana is going to continue throughout the whole country. And so it will ultimately evolve long-term, similarly to alcohol, which was in prohibition illegal and then became legal and became a huge industry. In terms of the casinos, when that was first proposed way back in 2006, I did not think it was the be-all and end-all for economic development in our state. And I don't think it should be perceived as the thing that will fix our revenues. It is an added element that will come into play, and hopefully it will not be cannibalized by what goes on in other states, but I don't think that we can anticipate the kind of revenues that were originally imagined.
Yeah, hopefully it's right, because, you know, of course we want industries like this to be, new laws to be implemented carefully and to be regulated properly to protect the public, but there's been a lot of criticism of the casino regulation that it's just taken forever to get these babies up and running. Are there similar concerns surrounding regulation of marijuana in the sense of too many rules?
Well, you know, I truthfully can't comment on that because their process isn't over.
Right.
When it was going to be in our office, we really were anxious to get the funding last January and get things moving along. We felt that there were a lot of time constraints, and there's a lot that comes into play around public safety and around public health and on working with local communities. And so consequently, I feel that there's a lot still to come with the new commission, and I wish them well on their work.
We got a break. Are you surprised so many cities and towns are voting down the pot shops?
I am not.
Yeah. Yeah, why? Super briefly.
Well, because, you know, I come from a progressive community. That's how it's perceived. I live in the town of Brookline. And I saw what happened when a medical marijuana facility was looking to open up in our town. It became very controversial.
Still is.
And they had to do a lot of work locally in order to get this done. Yeah. So if it's true for medical, you can imagine how each community is going to react about recreational.
Good point. All right, we'll continue our conversation with State Treasurer Deb Goldberg in just a moment. So please stay with us. Welcome back to our conversation with State Treasurer Deb Goldberg. And Treasurer, you oversee the unclaimed property list.
Yes.
And we got an email from a viewer named Tom who checked that list, found $70 he was owed.
Great.
He was very complimentary about how easy it was to get his money through your office. But he did have a question about the fact that the check was cut by People's United Bank, a
Yes.
bank that has branches here but is headquartered in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And he wants to know, why don't you use a Massachusetts bank to handle that business?
Well, actually, People's is moving to have a huge presence right here in Massachusetts. And in the past, we used other banks that were larger banks and weren't New England based. And so consequently, we're excited about People's wanting to come into Massachusetts. All the folks that work there now are here right in Massachusetts, and they're working very collaboratively with us and investing here in Massachusetts.
I hear your ads promoting the unclaimed money list every time I turn on the radio. How much money do you spend on those?
Actually, as a percentage of the total amount that we do, it's very, very small. Do you know that we turned back over $100 million to the general fund for the state this year? And we're one of the top unclaimed property divisions in the country in returning resources to people who have lost them. In fact, we actually were able to give the Jimmy Fund $477,000 at the phone-a-thon recently of monies that they had lost, and we were able to return to them.
Okay, we're running short on time here, but I want to get to a question about the state's finances. And on the ballot next year, there's going to be both a question slapping a surtax on incomes over $1 million and another one slashing the state sales tax and also requiring an annual sales tax holiday. What does this fiscal management by ballot question do to our fiscal stability?
Well, to be candid, as someone who cares a great deal about fiscal management, it's very hard to toe the line, to work with the rating agencies, to develop prudent fiscal management policies that could be bounced around, so to speak, by ballot questions. But it is still imperative that, as treasurer, I continue to promote all of the policies that I believe keep our state very highly valued and in good shape in terms of how the rating agencies. We have a positive outlook, and so that's a very good thing, and our bond issuances go very well with our refundings and our sales, which gives our ability to build new schools and build new roads a lot of flexibility.
Well, there's a lot more I wanted to get into with you. Our time is up.
Come back.
We'll have to have you back. Thank you very much for coming.
I'd love to come.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
State Treasurer Deb Goldberg, our guest this morning. Right now, I'm going to turn it back over to my colleagues for more WBZ News.